It's the Hot Stove presented by the Cup of Mets podcast, episode 13. I'm Ian Bosniak, joined alongside by Robert Venegas and Matthew DeSantis. As always, and gentlemen, we're getting down to the wire here. Final episode of January.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long hot stove. And I'm actually really excited for this hot stove to be over. But I feel like maybe they got another move or two up their sleeve. But nonetheless, I feel like this is the squad that we're going to have rolling into 2024. But nonetheless, spring training's coming up. And I can't wait, boys. I really can't wait.
Yeah, man. And again, very long hot stove indeed. I believe there's only like 16 or 15 days till pitchers and catchers report. It's starting to pick up a little bit in terms of players signing to their respective teams. But all in all, January's flying by, Buzz and Matt.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. And yeah, I think it's like 15, 16 days until pitchers and catchers report to Port St. Lucie and 24 days until spring training games begin. 59 days until opening day. Cookie Carrasco, who's now a Cleveland Guardian. But anyway, before we get going and dive into the workings of the New York Mets, remember to give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. We're at Cup of Mets. Also, be sure to rate and subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. So David Stearns and co. have beefed up the bullpen. Finally, a little bridge has been made to Edwin Diaz, and it's a familiar one in that Adam Ottavino returns to the Mets after opting out of his second year. $4.5 million over the course of 1 year. He joins the likes of Jorge Lopez and Drew Smith and Brooks Raley at the back end of that bullpen. Ottavino opted out of more money than he ended up getting, even though it was deferred. What do you guys make of the human slider returning to Queens? Do we think that he has a little bit of a bounce back in him? Last year, his slider, he hung a little bit, 4.52 FIP, even though he had a 3.21 ERA. He was a little shaky. What do we think about the Adam Ottavino re-signing?
Every time the moon shines, I become alive. Yeah, that's Adam Ottavino's walkout music. I love it. It's Kid Cudi.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I love the signing just because we got him on a $4.5 million deal instead of a $6 million option that he should have picked up. But I think David Stearns and company did their research. He's, again, I have no problem with this because granted, his last year wasn't the greatest, but I always look at the year before when the Mets won 101 games. He was a big part of that. And again, just another guy who could bridge the gap to Edwin Diaz. I mean, listen, as much as the slider got hit around last year, he still ended up with a 3.21 ERA, I believe you said, boss.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm content with it. Another guy who has closer experience, but can also be a setup guy or just that seventh, sixth inning guy. My only concern is with the pitch clock and his bad habit of letting guys steal off him. But other than that, I love the signing. I don't think the Mets are done in terms of the bullpen. But yeah, welcome back, Adam.
Yeah, I think given where they are in the offseason as well as what other relievers are getting on the open market, I think that this was a very safe move for the Mets, even though he did post numbers that appear a little bit better than he actually pitched last year. But, the key for me is we got the pitching lab, right? Obviously, that's not going to be the key and the fix to every pitcher's issues, right? But Adam Ottavino is a little bit like he needs like a little tinker with the slider. And I think he'll be back to his 2022 form, which you mentioned was phenomenal. The slider, as I mentioned, got hit hard last year. It got hit to a 212 batting average, which is obviously not bad, but he only was able to put away hitters at a 14% clip. So definitely something that was always his put away pitch, and it did not have the zip on it last year, though he did hold hitters to a low barrel percentage against, and as well as an expected batting average again. So I think that if Ottavino can, regain the confidence in that slider as well as locate that two-seamer, which was a really good pitch for him last year, I think it would be great. He walked 4.23 batters per 9 last year, which obviously hurt him, put runners on base. He also gave up a little over a home run per 9 innings last year as well. But listen, if he can rectify those two things, man, I think that the Mets still have a nice back end of the bullpen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I don't dislike the Ottavino signing because he signed for less money. and I think he's a solid back end of the bullpen reliever. Um, but like you said, I feel like they might have one more move up their sleeve.
Absolutely. And the cool thing as well is, all things considering, obviously you want your pitchers to perform at a high level. Over the last 3 seasons, 2021, 22, and 23, he's pitched in 69, 66, and 66 games respectively. So, listen, keep the ball in the ballpark, locate the slider, don't put free batters on base, and you'll have a solid veteran reliever at the back end of your bullpen who has pitched in New York, has succeeded in New York, and can really go a long way. Matt, you mentioned, Rob, you as well mentioned that, you don't think that they're done with the bullpen. Before we dive into that, just quickly, Ottavino's steamer projections have come out. He's projected to appear in 63 games for the New York Mets in 2024 with a 3.98 ERA, 4.12 FIP to a .4 WAR. Hopefully, we can expect better, but they are looking at other relievers, and a couple have come off the board recently. One name in particular that the Mets are talking about is former New York Yankee Wandy Peralta, the lefty that the Mets beat up a little bit. He obviously has ties with Carlos Mendoza. What do we think about the possibility of Wandy Peralta joining the Mets? I, to me, I feel like it would really lengthen out the bullpen, despite my true feelings about Wandy. But all in all, another arm needs to be added, and it seems like Peralta's on the radar.
Yeah, I mean, I'd 100% take him on. It's another pitcher that has succeeded in the league for a nice amount of time, and he'd be at this point, like we kind of know what we have in terms of the bullpen. So if we can keep adding to that spot, then I think that'd be great. But I guess kind of wait and see.
Yeah, no, and again, I like the point you brought up, Boz, in terms of familiarity with Carlos Mendoza, new Met manager Carlos Mendoza. That kind of drags me in. And on top of that, I just feel that the Mets are not in dire need because we have Brooks Raley, but again, they want to add that second lefty to complement a Brooks Raley. And again, Peralta, first pitch changeup type of guy, but I think that would be a nice compliment for Brooks Raley. And again, people look at Brooks as that lefty specialist. Brooks can get right-handed hitters and left-handed hitters out in my eyes. So just to add that second lefty to be that quote unquote lefty specialist, if you really need be, or if Brooks needs a day off, then there you go. That's a perfect, second tier lefty to have in your bullpen. And again, just looking at the projections right now for the 2024 New York Mets bullpen, you add a Wandy Peralta, it just makes it that much deeper. And again, with more experience, and a guy like Carlos Mendoza could really mix and match game by game.
Listen, I have made it clear about my feelings in regards to Peralta, but again, that would make the bullpen deep. And I actually think when looking at the overall team, you have upside in the rotation, but hell of a lot of question marks. You look at the lineup, they're still a bat away from actually being able to make an impact, but you look at the bullpen, and the bullpen might actually turn out to be a strong suit if certain things fall into play, especially if they add a Wandy Peralta. Right now, you're looking at Edwin Diaz, Ottavino, Raley. You add in Peralta, Smith, Michael Tonkin, Jorge Lopez, and Phil Bickford. That's not a bad bullpen. Wandy Peralta Wandy Peralta in 2022, 272 ERA, 286 FIP, .9 WAR as a reliever. This past year, 283 ERA, 505 FIP. So he got hit a lot harder, gave up a ton of home runs, walked a ton more batters than he had since 2018. But I think that he's a really, really good bounce back candidate, and Peralta would be, I think, a good fit. Another arm that Matt, you and I brought up in the last episode, and it's actually kind of come to fruition. The Mets have spoken to his agent, is Ryan Stanek, who obviously longtime reliever for the Houston Astros, pitching a ton of high leverage games. A guy that can go multiple innings. Obviously, doesn't fit that second lefty type of mentality there, but I think Stanek would be another player that I would be gung ho over, even more so than Wandy Peralta. To me, I really don't care about the lefty stuff because as you mentioned, Rob, I feel like, Rayleigh can do both. Um, but Ryan Stanek is a guy that can go multiple innings and he's won. He's played on Houston. He's played for Tampa Bay. And if he's healthy, he's an arm that I would give 2 years to.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if, like I said, if it bolsters our bullpen, makes our team better, I'm totally on board with it.
Yeah, and a guy like Stanek, I mean, again, like I saw last year when he went off on that umpire for that buck call, and I just think he'd not only make our bullpen like nastier in terms of like attitude and just swag, but again, Ryan Stanek, like you said, he's a proven winner. He's pitched for the Astros, high leverage type of bullpen arm. Again, just to add him to bolster our bullpen would be nice, honestly. And again, I'm not just saying this, Boz, because I love you, but like we would like I don't really care about lefty either. But again, a guy like Stanek, just put him out there when we need it, high leverage situations. Can give a guy like Ottavino or even Rayleigh a day off. And like you said, guy that can go multiple innings if his arm's healthy would be a plus for this Mets bullpen.
I think the bullpen would have a ton of upside then. You're looking at a potential big time bounce back candidate in Jorge Lopez, Michael Tonkin, who can go multiple innings, a Stanek or a Peralta. Um, and the last thing about that I did want to mention about Peralta was I'm happy that, despite the Mets not going all in on people this year, I'm happy that, if they are going for that second lefty, it appears like they're going to go outside the organization opposed to start the year with a Josh Walker or a Nate Lavender. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy that they're willing to go outside the organization to fill that hole. Because again, Josh Walker, Nate Lavender, they're good depth pieces. And I feel like obviously David Stearns has done an unbelievable job of bulking up the bullpen depth as well as the starting pitching depth for AAA. But again, another arm has to be added to push everybody else down the depth chart. But I feel like, again, I think we can all agree, the bullpen definitely does have some upside. And the fact that Ottavino's back gives a little bit more stability. If they can add one more arm, we're good. I definitely do think that $10 million figure was a really raw number because I see the Mets exceeding that, whether it be via another bullpen arm or a bat. I think Steve Cohen's going to go a little bit above that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about him going above it or below it, but I don't know. At this point, I feel like if he was going to go above that, he would have done it already. I think this is
In
going
which
to be
in which regard?
such a bit. Dude, we've been saying, I feel like I've said it like if we go back into all the episodes, probably like 80 times. Like it's a watch and like wait and see, like year. Like with all the signings we made, like 1 year, 2 year deals with like Severino, Manaya. Like it's a lot of big like wait and see. You know what I mean?
That's exact. I feel like this whole hot stove has been wait and see. It's been, ooh, I like this deal, but it can go bad really quick. Or it's been refreshing the Twitter feed a million times, right? Because you're just waiting for something to happen. And yeah, you're right. If we go back into the other 12 episodes, we're probably saying the same shit. And we're about to go from the bullpen, which the Mets patch with Ottavino, and it seems like they're gonna go for another arm, um, to the bats. Definitely not the first time we've ever spoken about a bat on this episode, right? Um, or on this podcast, I should say. Do we think the Mets are going to add another bat? I think that we're getting to the point in the offseason where I can just flat out ask, do you guys think the Mets are going to add another bat? Rob?
No.
I mean, I would love them to, but again, like there's just a lot of talk revolving Mark Vientos, and he should be the guy. We got to let him rock, let him get his year in, see how he does. So I'm leaning more towards like internally they're gonna use Mark Vientos as the DH. But if you were to ask me who I would want or who I want them to sign, it would be Justin Turner. Again, I saw John Morisi. He did tweet that Justin Turner is going to make a decision, and the Mets were one of the teams involved. So I do believe that over in the end, I do believe the Mets stay internally and go with Mark Vientos. But I do hope also that Justin Turner has a little reunion with us, maybe like a 1 year deal with a second year option or something like that. But we just got to wait and see, like we've always been saying. So
Vientos is projected to have 350 plate appearances in 2024, 15 home runs, 241 average, 305 on base percentage, and a 439 slugging percentage. Listen, that's a good jump, right? But I don't know. I think that this is just me. I mean, Rob, we've been doing this podcast for the last 2 years, and guys, we've been optimistic Met fans for a while. I feel like I've been always someone that goes into a season saying this is the year. It doesn't matter if, Alejandro Diaz is the starting outfielder. I'm always like, yeah, we're going to win. But I still feel like there's an opportunity for this team to win, right? And that's why when I look at a Mark Vientos, I want to see the development. Don't get me wrong, right? But with the question marks that you have in a bounce back of a McNeil, a Marte, the development of a Beatty and an Alvarez, having Harrison Bader slated as your starting center fielder, which is fine. I just, to me, Matt, you and I were talking about this before the show. I love DJ Stewart to death, and I know I was just talking about Vientos, but I need to see one more established bat in that lineup. And I know that you want to see Vientos make that jump. I know that you want to give him the plate appearances, right? And we know that David Stearns is keen on doing so. But, I look at, for instance, Jock Peterson, right? He just signed a $9.5 million deal with the Diamondbacks. Okay. Justin Turner's asking north of 15, closer to 20. JD Martinez is asking for 15, potentially north of 15. You look at a guy like, as I said, Jock Peterson, a guy who's going to hit 25 home runs, drive in 70 plus runs, and he signed it for $9.5 million, right? And the Mets don't even necessarily need to go and overpay for an older bat like a Turner or a JD Martinez, even though I would like, you look around and you look at players that are still available. Eddie Rosario is still available. Okay. Adam Duvall is still available. Austin Meadows is still available. Carlos Santana is still available, who Carlos Santana last year for the Brewers hit 23 home runs, drove in 86 RBIs, 240 average, 318 on base percentage, accumulated to a 747 OPS. Carlos Santana would probably get what, $8 million on the open market. Granted, he can only DH and play first, but there's your platoon partner with Mark Vientos at DH, and I think Carlos Santana is much more established than a DJ Stewart.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest thing with the Mets last year. Once Alonso went down, we struggled to score runs, and we struggled to produce, have other guys produce runs along. Again, I don't see Alonso or Lindor in that category because they did their part. You feel me? And again, even when Alonso came back, he was still driving in runs and all that. But two guys is not enough. I need and again, a guy like Justin Turner who drove in 90 some runs last year. Again, with the established bat and that protection in the lineup. Like, again, I love Mark Vientos' swing. I think he can drive the ball out of a ballpark if he really wanted to every given day, every given night. But if it's the year to give the kids a chance, it's this year. Because again, you're paying Verlander, you're paying Scherzer, you're paying all these guys. And again, you want to evaluate. So maybe next year when all those guys are off the books, then you go, okay, now let's get these established bats. Let's get this big time player. Let's re-sign Alonso. Now you can play chess. Whereas we're playing a little bit of checkers right now and just seeing what we got. I feel like, but again, I don't disagree with you. I really would like a bat. I mean, even with a Carlos Santana, I think that lineup would be 20 times better. But I don't know. I really do think though they're gonna just stay internally.
I mean, you look at the projected opening day lineup: Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Starling Marte, Vientos, Stewart as the DH duo, Alvarez, Beatty, and Bader. Literally, you could take that lineup and just insert Carlos Santana, and it looks 10 times better. You insert Justin Turner, it looks 20 times better.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know. To me, I just feel as if, sure, we're not all the way in. Our biggest deal that we've given out this year was the 13 million bucks to Luis Severino, right? But at the end of the day, this lineup is not bad. You still have Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, Lindor, Alonso. If Marte's healthy, which he showed in the Dominican League, Alvarez, Beatty, they take a step up. Alvarez projected 24 home runs. Beatty's projected 16 home runs. Like, they're going to take steps. If you just add one more bat in there, you'll be able to score some runs, especially with a pitching staff that we also is just full of question marks.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, like the if we can grab another bat, I'd love another bat. But who knows? Gotta
So
see.
you both think that we're going internal. That's it.
Yeah, at this point,
Unfortunately. Yeah.
unless we get somebody on a low call, like for like we've been talking about like a Soler for a long time, but I don't unless we'd be able to get him for a good price, I don't think he's gonna be in that.
Yeah, I think Soler is so gone.
Yeah, watch him like go be a Dodger.
Or go back to the Braves or something.
Nah, I thought the Blue Jays, honestly, but
Yeah, the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays, I think, are front runners for to sign him.
Interesting.
it's not necessarily a bad thing. I know, again, like I would love a Soler on the Mets, but maybe there are more like quote unquote sexier names next year alongside the getting rid of the money, dead money, and all that, and just again, we'll see. I mean, I really do think though, like halfway through the year, like these guys are gonna show their worth, and maybe they make a trade or they just stick with them, and again, that's our future. But
I mean, yeah. Listen, this season is going one or two ways. Okay, we're either going in, we're gonna buy at the deadline, or we're going in
It's
and we're
not
gonna
happening.
and we're gonna sell at the deadline. That's just kind of what it comes down to. With all these players on walk years, on 1 year deals, but then also the upside in some of the players, you could see it going one of two ways, right? You could be the optimist and say this, that, whatever. Severino's going to turn back into an ace. Marte's going to be 2022 form. McNeil's going to be the batting champ. Alvarez is going to take that step, yada, yada, yada. Or you could say, nah, I mean, realistically, Sevy, Manaya, Ottavino, maybe an Alonso gone at the deadline, right? You just don't know. The season really could go one or two ways, and I think that's why I know I've said this and we've said this, but this hot stove has just been so strange, just because it's like we're going into a year that we're pumped about because we're 2 years removed from a 101 win team, and we still have kind of like the core of it, but it's not the same, and obviously the front office is just taking a completely different approach, which I don't think any of us can really blame them. Granted, as you mentioned, Rob, before, the dead money and, the constraints that we have, but definitely would like to see one more bat in there. I think if the Mets were to add a Wandy Peralta or a Ryan Stanek and then one more bat, I think that I would be extremely content with the offseason. And I would say to myself that given the expectations going to this offseason, the Mets did a pretty good job.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that they also their biggest fish and their prize was David Stearns. So I'm still static to have him for the long run, and I'm not judging him based off of one off season where we're kind of in like a turnover year.
I don't think anybody can blame David Stearns for, you know, operating the way that he has. The people that do just want to see the team win now, which obviously we all want to see the team win now, but I think we also are realistic and we recognize that this wasn't the off season to dive all in terms of money, and all things considering, we had to do away with, um, we have to get rid of this dead money, because it's holding us down, and it will hold us down. But the good news is that they've patched some pieces. They look like they're going to have a competitive team going into 2024. It appears like they're not done, and the Mets finally have some youth on the way, which we'll touch upon. So MLB Pipeline comes out with their top 100 prospects entering the 2024 season. We already heard about Baseball Prospectus and Baseball America. MLB Pipeline, Maddie, we
Yep.
predicted, or you predicted, I should say, you
All
predicted Chet.
four. All
Yeah,
four in a row.
good for you. Look at you. Look
Yeah,
at
right.
you, the prospect guru. Jet Williams, Drew Gilbert, Luis Angel Acuna, and Ryan Clifford. Mr. DeSantis called it, and all four were within the top 100 for MLB Pipeline. Jet Williams clocked in at 45, Drew Gilbert 53, Luis Angel Acuna at 66, and Ryan Clifford at 97. Anything that jumps out to you, Matt?
Uh, to be honest, what jumped out to me the most is the slide with Acuna in the latest ranks. He was much higher. We're talking like 20s, 30s last year. So to see him drop to the 60s, low end 60s, like 67. Um, I hope he has a big year. Like we need to see more. We need to see more hard fly balls, not ground balls.
Yeah, because he dropped as well in Baseball Prospectus as well as Baseball America. So that's
Yep.
three major outlets that a top prospect is
He
dropping.
dropped. He dropped completely across the board. And honestly, I thought Jet Williams was going to be higher on MLB Pipeline. There's a bunch of people. There's probably five prospects on MLB Pipeline that are in like mid 20s that Jet Williams will be better than. Um, but if we didn't make those moves last deadline, we only have one. We only have one top
Yeah.
100 prospect. Uh, but realistically, it's going to be nice to see some of these top prospects play during the spring. Like Gilbert, Acuna will be there. I believe Jet Williams will be there. I don't think Clifford will be there though.
Now is Jet starting at AAA just like the other ones or no? Like I know Clifford probably be AA again, right? Or something like that.
Clifford didn't make it to Double A,
Or
so
he's gonna be on AA this year, and then
I'm sure
Jet,
he'll be a double this year. Jet,
Jet Gilbert, and yeah.
Gilbert is in Syracuse to start the season.
Hmm.
He's the closest, man.
yeah.
He's the closest.
If he starts off AAA this year, first month, rot like I'm talking like batting like 350 plus, like he's coming to New York by like May. Or
If the Mets are playing well, he'll be the 2015 version of Michael Conforto.
hope so. And then rookie of the year, we get a first round pick.
Oh yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
And then I mean, listen, he's young as anything.
I mean, you could see it. Like I'm not trying to. No, I'm not even gonna say it. But like somebody in that outfield doesn't pan out or gets hurt, and he's raking.
I mean,
It's
dude,
no question.
we have a juggernaut in center field as is in
Yeah.
Bader, so there's always a possibility. And then you have Jet Williams. I mean, 20 years old. Yeah, he'll probably begin the season in Double A, but we all know he is a walking machine, right? He makes Brendan Nimmo look bad. Okay, uh,
Mhm.
so Jet Williams says that he wants to be at Citi Field in 2024 as well, right? So if he has a quick start in Binghamton, you can bet your bottom dollar that he'll be over in Syracuse, right? So then
And
it's only a matter of time until he's at Citi Field.
yeah, absolutely. And somebody else that I heard who is should be our fifth prospect when our 2024 top 30 comes out. It's gonna be Marco Vargas. He's apparently within striking range of top 100. We're looking like five.
You said he's going to be our fifth?
The New York Mets.
The Mets top. Oh, I thought you said Cup of Mets.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
Overall, I was about to say we haven't discussed that yet, Matt.
We didn't. Yeah, we didn't. That hasn't been released yet.
I know that's on the agenda. That's on the agenda. Rob, what do you when you look at those four players, who are you most excited about?
No, definitely a Jet Williams. I mean, you said it best. He's a walking machine. He makes Brandon Nimmo look like a legitimate like 2 or 3 hitter now, especially with Nimmo hitting more home runs, stealing less bags, and hitting for more power. I could see it in a few, and maybe even next year, just Jet Williams at that leadoff spot, and then Nimmo 2 or 3. Lindor in there, and then hopefully Alonso. I would love Jet Williams to be on the big league roster in 2024. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I do think that's like our not our Trey Turner, but like again like a Trey Turner type player where starts out in the outfield and comes in the infield, plays second, plays short, bats lead off, hits for power every now and then, whatever.
Yeah.
Doubles machine.
Jet Williams also reminds me a little bit of Jose Altuve.
Just why like size or stature, just the way he plays.
Size,
I believe.
stature, the way that he plays, but also having a small frame, but having a big bat like that, having pop.
Mhm.
But again, Williams gets on base at a higher clip. Obviously, we haven't
Yeah.
seen him in the bigs. I'm also stoked to see Ryan Clifford make this top 100. He was, I think, the Astros, I want to say, fifth or sixth overall prospect last year when the Mets acquired him and Drew Gilbert. And Clifford obviously made strides, massive strides, once he came to the Mets with Brooklyn. Now 97th overall. So
he was a Vanderbilt commit, taken in the 11th round by Houston. He's a good prospect for them. Well, for us.
we could say all we want about Bailey Upler, but yeah, you did a good job.
Yeah, that was a nice little going away present.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we know what happened with the investigation?
No, I don't think that lawsuit's complete yet.
Well, we have another investigation now, right? One of the international free agents was like 13 years old or something.
He lied
No,
about his age,
no, dude, he was like 19. He was older.
and he said he
Uh,
was 16.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
crazy.
he said he
the
was.
the Ramel Ortiz signing.
Oh, see, I didn't even look at it too deep.
Yeah, so that's why we didn't sign him. And that it wasn't even the Mets. A whole bunch of teams they got caught with in between an international free agent Mets.
Hmm.
That's why soon enough in the next CBA there's going to be a
Draft,
international draft.
draft, yeah, yeah.
So
Oh,
And we got a Guerrero too, no?
yeah, Vladdy Miguel.
we got a young Guerrero.
So
Yeah,
there's Vlad Senior, Vlad Junior, and then Vladdy Miguel.
yeah,
That's hilarious.
yeah. It's
That's
like
like me having 3 kids and naming them Rob, Robert, and Robbie.
that's what I plan on doing. That's what I
Yeah,
plan on doing.
That's what you plan to do?
Ian Jr., then Ian William Jr., and then
The
and then
third,
say,
you moron.
oh, the third, whatever.
third, and then the
And
fourth.
Billiam. Billiam and then William.
How you doing?
Billiam and William. Yeah. What an off season.
That's crazy.
How shitty.
Awful.
Dude, one of the slowest off seasons and like since I can remember.
Dude,
Honestly.
we've had nothing to talk about. I'm
That's how
Yeah.
you know we have nothing to talk about when we talk about our kids' names and making fun of Vlad Sr. for naming his 3 kids Vlad, Vladdy, and Vladdy Miguel. Like,
Does he have another one? Is it like Vlad the Fourth?
I'm pretty sure he does have another one.
oh my
Or
God, bro.
or
What's
He's
his
like
Vlad
name?
Vladdy
he's like
Miguel
12-year-old.
Miguel Jr.?
Probably like Miguel Vladdy.
I don't
I
Yeah,
know.
don't know,
that's
bro, but that's just boggles my mind, bro. Like, no creativity. Like, what your wife was just like, name it, and Vladdy's like, all right, Vlad
yeah,
Miguel. It's like,
Yeah.
bro, we got Vladdy Jr. and you. Like,
for sure.
he's like,
Switch it
nah,
up.
we spell it
Switch it
with
up.
Bladi.
Which I like. That's fine. But it's confusing, dude. I wouldn't name all my kids the same. Like what?
No, absolutely not.
But listen, to each their own. But that's again, as you said, Rob, that's how you know it's been a slow off season when we're talking about the lineage of the Vladimir Guerreros. And
I'm not hating him, but I'm just
no,
saying.
no, listen. But you know what the good news is, guys, to all those who are listening, beginning with the next episode, we will be dropping our top 10 entering the 2024 season, position by position. We will start with catcher and first base. Next episode, each of us will have a list. So we'll bring something to the table. Okay. Obviously, if the Mets make a move or two, we'll touch upon that, no doubt. But we will begin our countdown for the top 10 at each position in episode 14. Gentlemen, anything left on the docket for the Adam Ottavino episode?
Go ahead, Maddie.
Such a big episode, man. And fucking really, man. I'm excited to get back to the ballpark. Uh, I need this weather to get better. It's too cold out here. Um, you know,
You're going to San Diego, so you shouldn't be complaining.
Again?
yeah, it's not. I mean, but
Nice.
it's not like I'm going to Mexico. Like,
Yeah,
it's not
but
like
it's gonna be 75 and sunny.
I'm sure when I go there, it'll be 55 and raining.
Oh, come on. That's the
Mm.
Mets fan in you.
I know.
Just like every Cup of Mets trip last season.
Oh, Matt, you should have saw, dude. Everywhere we went, rain.
Oh, this year good vibes when we go away.
Facts.
Even
Facts.
even when I went with Mr. Rubio to Toronto, rain.
Dude, that's wild. No, yeah, that's so funny. Like we went to Philly, we were like, nah, we're good, we're good. The eighth inning comes around, it's just pouring rain.
Go to Boston, dude takes off his shirt, starts dancing really strangely to dancing on my own or whatever.
No, that's so funny. Dude.
Uh,
And then the next day it was like humid as hell. Whatever.
Oh
yeah,
God.
and
Uh,
they tried to charge us $70 to watch 5 2/3 of an inning.
Yeah, that was funny. That was funny.
Boston, get out of here. All right, well, another episode in the books. We'll be back in a couple days for episode 14 of this lovely hot stove season, which has just dragged on. But again, we're close, guys. We're close. We're going to wrap up the hot stove segments at the end of February, and then season 3 will kick off as we get closer to opening day. Remember to give us a follow on Instagram. And speaking of Instagram, be sure to head over to our Instagram page at Cup of Mets. We are currently giving away a signed Luis Severino baseball. Follow us, tag 2 to 3 friends, like the post. You get an entry, earn a bonus entry or 2 by subscribing to us on Spotify or Apple, as well as our YouTube channel. So you can total 3 spots in the giveaway. Just shoot us over a DM confirming the subscription to Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. And with that, again, reminder to give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. We're at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And for Matt DeSantis, Robert Menegas, I'm Ian Bosniak. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Ottavino episode, and we will see you in a couple days. Good night, everybody. Let's go Mets.